There were two bone-wearied public servants. The office was so busy that there just wasn't a way to take any time off. And so as the two of them talked, it was Elisa who finally said, I figured out how to get time off. And while Christopher was asking how, she jumped up on top of her desk, pushed some tiles out of the ceiling, hoisted herself up, grabbed onto the metal pipe, slung her legs over it, and hung upside down. Well, the boss, within seconds, came out of the office at the end of the hall, came on down and said, "What on earth are you doing there?" To which Elisa replied, "I am a light bulb." Immediately, the supervisor said, "Oh, you have to take time off. Go home and do not come back here for at least 2 days. And depart now. That's an order." Meekly, she said, "Yes, sir." She jumps down, turns off her computer, heads out of the office, only to be followed by Christopher. And the boss says, "Whoa, what do you think you're doing?" He said, "Going home." Said, "I can't work in the dark." Today we are focusing on light and dark. It is Epiphany. It is a time when we think about the light from Christ. The Epiphany light. You know, it was Mary and Joseph. They were the ones that we follow. But already at this time of the year, look at what is happening to us. Many of the Christmas lights are already off. People were moving on. I saw Valentine candy at the store this week. And in church today, we're still living with the Christmas season, with Epiphany, with the arrival of the Magi, on a day when it is often a time of sharing gifts. And so we're looking at light and dark and obstacles that block the light. You know, the story of the Magi in Epiphany was analyzed by an Episcopal priest, Caleb Tabor, in this way. This message is really a warning for those trying to stop God's flow of grace and liberating work in this world. The message: you can do whatever you want, pull any strings you want, commit any atrocities you want, but you will not win. And we see that with the light. The king is supposed to be the person who looks out for all people. The king is one who's supposed to care about both the wealthy and the poor, the widows and the prisoners. But when the king hears from the Magi, Herod becomes fearful about his position. Fear that was put in a wrong place. And so Herod works to be an obstacle in the search and finding of the child, and eventually tries to kill all children under the age of 2. Excuse me. Herod lost track of his purpose as a king. But the Magi, they were the outsiders. They were the ones who were from another country, who were allowed into the country as they sought the light. They used all the resources they could imagine. They blended their brilliant scientific mind with curiosity and faith and being able to listen to dreams. We don't normally think of scientists being the ones to listen to dreams. And then there was Mary and Joseph. This was a bit after the birth of Jesus, more than the 2 weeks for which we recognize each year. They were settling into their role of parents, but they also knew that this child would never be normal. Not just because this was their first child and their life would never be normal again, but also the recognition that was happening around them by shepherds, Anna in the temple, and by the wise men. They knew this was not a normal child. And yet that is a way we yearn to be when we experience the light of Christ. Understanding that our lives will remain mysterious, that as we seek God's wisdom like the Magi did, that we will need to listen to more than just the logic, but also the mysterious parts. And so we gather here to encourage each other in the ways of God, so that when that light breaks in, we can see it and we are in awe. Hear this story. It was first told by Willa Cather. This is a story of a burglar. You see, there was Willie. Willie was on the streets with another man. And Willie was so hungry, they hadn't eaten for days. And so at the time, Willie was too tired, and so the other man headed to another part of Chicago. So Willie figured he needed to do something that he had never done before, and that was to steal for food. Oh, in front of him, there was a woman carrying many bundles, and she dropped one of them. While he could have just grabbed it and ran, his first instinct was to pick it up, and he did hand it back to him. At which point she said, "That was so very valuable, thank you." But he still was hungry and had no food. And so he saw a crime of opportunity. He walked past a new house. And while he did, he thought, okay, I'm failing even as a thief. Can I do this? I've had so much failure in my life as a college student, as an employee, working in real estate. Can I really go ahead and do this? But at this new house, the door was open and people who were richly dressed were walking in and out. And so he joined in, walked in, and for some reason still took off his hat as he entered the doorway. But he headed up the stairs and in the bedroom started going through the jewelry and slipping pieces into his pocket. And some of the pieces started to look familiar. That bracelet, that watch. And then he saw a silver cup just like the one he had as a child. About that point, the door flew open, and he could see the shape of a woman as the light flooded through. She walked closer and said, "Willie, is that you? I've been waiting a long time for this very moment." And at that point, he recognized his mother. And for all his brokenness and all the years that he had not known where she was, at that very moment, he would rather have been going to the police station, being charged with theft, rather than seeing his mother. But she kept walking closer, and he said, "Oh, Mother, you do not know all that you would need to forgive me of." And her response, "With all your traveling and with all the knowledge that you have gained from your wanderings, I think by now you would understand about forgiveness. For forgiveness has a root in love. And forgiveness means that love happens and more love happens and more love happens." And she moved to kiss him. In that moment, the light broke through for both the mother and Willie. This story from the end of the 1800s still has value for us today. You see, we keep looking for when the light shines through. And yet, as we prepare for that time, I keep encouraging us to prepare ourselves. You see, that's the role of the church. The role of the church is to keep us in touch with God and with our faith. The role of the church is, this is a place that we can come and keep learning and gaining strength for our lives, growing and instilling that hope deep within us. We come because we need that support and challenge of the community to keep us growing. Because in those tough times, that response, like the mother, needs to be automatic. We love you, regardless of what you have gone through. And we can choose to let the sunlight come through. Do you have a faith strong enough so that you can respond like the mother? Oh, think of the obstacles she went through, the pain of not knowing where her son was and wondering what her husband might think. Are you prepared to face those obstacles? And then prepared for the day when the sunlight shines in and you can say, "I forgive you. You are my son. I have seen Christ today." Amen.